Hi, I'm Christina, executive and ADHD coach with about 20 years in and around the corporate world. Self-advocacy is something that people don't always take into consideration when it comes to roles. And so when you go into the working world, learning how to self-advocate is key. And it's different for everybody. Sometimes if you've got disabilities, especially invisible disabilities, self-advocacy can feel very difficult because you might already be asking for formal accommodations or not. So regardless if you've had formal accommodations or informal accommodations where you might be asking for things but not formally through HR channels, learning to self-advocate is a process. Here are some ways that you can start self-advocating immediately in new roles, regardless of level or type of job, hourly or salary. Number one, you're going to answer the question for yourself, I work best when? I work best when I'm able to process information in written form. I work best when goals are very clear and my role is defined. I work best when I am able to be a part of a team while also having time to do deep work. Now, if you are not able to answer this question off the bat, say you haven't necessarily been in the working world and you're not quite sure, I highly recommend thinking about I rest best when. That is at home instead of work. So we're going to first start off with self-advocacy at home with yourself. That is key. So there's 3 different zones you can think about when it comes to self-accommodations, which is where accommodations start, which is home, play, and work. So if you have not been necessarily had roles before, or you feel very uncomfortable having those conversations with other people, first have them with yourself. Ask yourself how you rest best. So you can start having practice around self-advocating with yourself in your own space. Nobody's going to judge you. You're the only one that is going to hear it. And you can start processing how you rest best. And then from there, what you do is you think about, this is how I rest best. How can this translate into work? Do I rest best when I have a quiet and calm space for me to rest in? Is that something that can translate to work? When am I productive at home? Is it in the mornings after I've had breakfast and coffee? Or is it in the later afternoon where I get a wind and that's when I can start really working from like 2 to 7? Focus on how you rest best and then get into how you work best at work. Now, how does this translate into self-advocacy actively in the workplace? When you start understanding yourself first, that is when you can start to self-advocate. And that can look very similar. So say you have a colleague that is wanting you to work on a project with them. It's going to involve weekends and nights, and you know that that is going to drain your battery completely. What you can do is say, I would love to help you. I work best when I have some balance between having time off and the workplace. What are our options to work together on this project to where I don't have to sacrifice that? Are there options? So self-advocacy also looks like boundary setting. So being able to say what your firm boundaries are and what they are not, and what are the gray areas in between. There's always going to be times where your personal life impacts your professional, and when your professional impacts your personal. It's important that they don't overstep constantly. And it's important to recognize that self-advocacy is a great way to make sure that that does not happen. So, in summary, if you're not sure how to best self-advocate at work, start at home. I rest best when, and reflect on what that can look like for you. Then move that into the workplace in the form of boundary setting. I work best when, answer that question. You first have to ask it and answer it for yourself before you can implement that with others across an organization.